How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. Yes! Friday here on the show. And we got a lot to talk about here today. And I am flying solo as Mike Sempervive has been stricken with illness. He's still stricken, and so he's not going to make it here today, but hopefully back on Monday. And I got it handled here today. Because, in fact, we'll be joined in the second segment of the show by Dave Meltzer, talking all of the news from the newest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, available right now at WrestlingObserver.com. So if you want all of the latest news, that's the place to go. 40,000 words of news and information on pro wrestling and mixed martial arts. Tons of stories, including what's going on with Roman Reigns. That's the top story in the Observer. We'll talk to Dave about all of this here today. And the rest of the news as well. We have an update on Shinjiro Otani, and the news is not good, so we'll tell you about that. Still paralyzed from the neck down. We have an update on Tammy Sytch. Nothing involving Tammy Sytch is ever good, but she is no longer free, which, based on history, is good news. So she will not be driving a car anytime soon as she heads to her trial. NXT returning to touring for the first time in 2 years. We've talked about this a bit. We'll tell you a little bit more about that story. SmackDown lineup for tonight, as well as the New Japan lineup for tomorrow. Capital Collision on Fight TV. And, of course, the Dynamite ratings as well. A lot to get into today. If you want to text us, 425-780-7566. That is 425-780-7566. Bryan at WrestlingObserver.com. At Bryan Alvarez on Twitter. And maybe in the final segment of the show, it's Friday. Maybe we'll take some phone calls. We'll see how it goes. But a lot to get into after the break. Stick around. Wrestling Observer Live.
AEW Double or Nothing is going to be taking place later this month, so I decided to bring back my trivia video. That is right. Today we got AEW Double or Nothing trivia. Let's go ahead and play. Question number 1. Who did Hangman Adam Page eliminate to win the 21-man Casino Battle Royale at AEW Double or Nothing 2019? A. Joey Janela, B. MJF, C. Orange Cassidy, or D. None of the above.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. No Mike Sempervive, recuperating at home. Best wishes to him and his family on his illness, but he should be back on Monday. He's been texting me incessantly today. This sickness sucks. I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not. We've been talking about it for me, it's been weeks now. But away we go with the news. Shinjiro Otani has issued his first statement since suffering a cervical spinal cord injury last month. 49-year-old was injured in the main event of a 0-1 event April 10th after taking a German suplex into the corner, remained motionless after taking the move, has not regained use of his arms or legs. Surgery was performed to prevent further deterioration of the injury on April 13th. It is May 13th today. It's been a month. 0-1 posted a statement from Otani on Friday. Also confirmed he is still paralyzed from the neck down. A translation of his statement reads, "To all the hot professional wrestling fans who love professional wrestling, and to all the people involved in the professional wrestling industry, I'm really sorry for the inconvenience and concern caused by my injury. Also, I am grateful to everyone for their warm feelings. Now I am working hard every day for treatment and rehabilitation so that I can return to everyone as soon as possible. I will definitely return in front of you. We look forward to your continued support of 0-1 and professional wrestling." I don't think he needs to apologize for being an inconvenience to anyone as a result of his injury. A benefit show will be held June 4th at the Oda Ward General Gymnasium in Tokyo. Yuji Nagata, Tomoaki Honma, Togi Makabe from New Japan are scheduled to take part. Pro Wrestling Noah will also be sending wrestlers to the show. So all the best to Shinjiro Otani. I hope that he can make a recovery. But it's been a month and still paralyzed from the neck down. So he needs all the good wishes and thoughts that he can get, because that's a rough injury, and that is, quite frankly, not a great update. So all the best to him and his family. Sunny back in jail. We talked about this story. They allowed her out on bond, $250,000 bond, $250,000, and of course everybody was outraged about that because she's been prohibited from driving, and she just continues to drive. And they got her toxicology report back, and her blood alcohol content was over 3 times the legal limit when she was involved in this most recent accident, which led to the death of a 75-year-old man. So the state argued that there is a substantial probability that Sitch committed DUI manslaughter in a March 25th crash that killed a 75-year-old man, and that Sitch posed a threat of harm to the community due to her long history of DUI offenses. A judge made the decision to revoke her bond, granting the state of Florida's request for pre-trial detention. The judge ruled there was no reasonable way to keep the public safe from Sitch other than complete bond revocation. She was arrested May 6th after her toxicology results came back. Blood alcohol level, 0.08 is the limit. She was at 0.280. That's over 3 times, 3.5 times. She had posted $227,500 bond, and that has since been revoked. So, of course, on March 25th was the accident, and driver of the vehicle who failed to stop, Tamara Lynn Sitch, and Julian Lassiter, 75 years old, was killed in the crash. So she will be in jail until I can't say this is resolved, but she will be in jail as she awaits trial. So that's the update on Tammy Sitch. We're talking about NXT, and this brand needs to go on the road because these wrestlers are not learning how to work. Right now, the wrestlers are learning how to choreograph matches for a live television show, and then they choreograph matches for the next live television show. And if you watch the show, and sometimes you think like, quite frankly, that person's had 9 matches, and I'm not exaggerating, by the way. That person's had 9 matches. Well, that wasn't so bad. Some would even argue, well, just let them, just do this every week. Well, the problem is they get called up to the main roster eventually, some of them, and you ain't going to get a week to practice your match. You may think you have a week. You may have a match announced for the following week, but, then the old guy shows up on Monday and changes your match, and then everything that you worked on, it's out the window. So you got to be able to work, at least to a degree. So they need to go on the road, and they will be returning to touring for the first time in over 2 years. Post-wrestling is confirmed. NXT will return to the road with house shows in Florida in June. So we talked about this on Observer Radio, and, the feeling then was that it's probably going to be what they used to call the coconut loop, and just small shows in tiny buildings around Florida. Because, when NXT was NXT 1.0, and they had some of the best wrestlers in the world having great matches and, what to the audience would be considered big stars. I mean, they did tour, and they didn't do all that well outside of if you ran like a takeover. But, they came to Seattle, and normally in Seattle, these WWE shows are in these giant buildings. And for NXT, they ran the local Paramount Theater. And it was a cool theater, and there were people there, and they were hot. But this was not a 5,000-seat building. This was not a 10,000-seat building. So the reality is they're not going to draw on the road at all with this NXT 2.0 crew. It's just not going to happen. So they will be doing these small buildings, and that will be July of 2021. Dave reported in the newsletter last June that they would be going on the road. And it's been almost a year they didn't go on the road. Now we got to go back on the road again, and it will be, as noted, the Coconut Loop and small buildings. We've had a couple people here on the chat saying that their local building was on the Coconut Loop. And, if you want to make fun of NXT being on national television and being able to sell like 200 tickets to a show, I mean, you can if you want to, but, bro, I don't care. If there's 25 people in the building and these wrestlers need to go and work in front of 25 people and learn how to do matches, great. I'm all for it. And quite frankly, what they should do is it should be a requirement that if you're on this little loop, you got to work a different person every night, and you don't just get to work that same match over and over and over again. I know that if you go to a WWE house show back in the day, I mean, everybody just worked the same match over and over again. But you did have more freedom on house shows, and for developmental, it's even more important to not work the same match every night. I just feel that, like, if these wrestlers are going to get any better, they should be on this coconut loop with the green people, with the more advanced people, the advanced people trying to teach them how to work, have a finish, call it in the ring. You just got to learn. The matches may be horrible. You may only draw 25 people, but that's the way that this has to be done. So we'll see what they end up doing on these coconut loop shows, but I think that's the way that it needs to be done. SmackDown is tonight. Are you ready for SmackDown? Well, we've got RK Bro confronting the Bloodline. This, of course, is over unifying the tag team titles, which they teased for a month and then did not deliver. Now they're teasing it again. And internally, the idea is, well, you're going to get the match, but we ain't going to unify these titles. So I don't even know what the point of doing the match is if you're not going to unify the titles as advertised. But, plans do change. Maybe they will unify the titles and then ununify them shortly thereafter. But we've got Sasha and Naomi defending the women's tag titles against Natty and Shayna Baszler. I'm not telling you it's going to be a title change, but I don't think a title change is out of the question. And Kofi Kingston will face Butch, who has returned from his hiatus. Back in a moment with Dave Meltzer, Observer Live.
Above. The correct answer is MJF. Question number 2. True or false? At AEW Double or Nothing 2019, the Young Bucks defeated the Lucha Brothers for the AEW Tag Team Championship. The answer is false. While the Young Bucks did defeat the Lucha Brothers, it wasn't for the AEW Tag Team titles. It was actually for the AAA Tag Team titles. Question number 3. Who won the Casino Ladder match at AEW Double or Nothing 2020? A. Scorpio Sky, B. Darby Allin, C. Orange Cassidy, D. None of the above. The correct answer is none of the above. The winner of the Casino Ladder match was Brian Cage, who made his AEW debut that night. Question number 4. How many AEW Double or Nothing matches from 2019 through 2021 have received a 5-star rating? A. 0, B. 1, C. 2, D. 3. The correct answer is 1. And it was the first AEW Double or Nothing event in 2019. It was the match between Cody versus Dustin Rhodes. It received 5 stars. Question number 5. How many title changes have occurred between the 2019 Double or Nothing and the 2021 Double or Nothing? A. 1, B. 2, C. 3, D. 5 or more. The correct answer is 3. At Double or Nothing 2020, we saw Cody win the AEW TNT Championship after defeating Lance Archer. Hikaru Shida also won the AEW Women's Championship after defeating Nyla Rose that night. And at AEW Double or Nothing 2021, we saw Dr. Britt Baker defeat Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's Championship. Alrighty, that's a wrap for part 1 of the AEW Double or Nothing trivia. I will be back with a part 2. Enjoy the rest of Wrestling Observer Live.
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Alive. Dave Meltzer joining us here today. Newest edition of The Observer is available at WrestlingObserver.com. All of the biggest stories from the week. And Dave, you're typing furiously during the break. What's going on right now?
Nothing of major. Just catching up on things.
Well, the top story in The Observer is about Roman Reigns, and we've been talking about this story on Observer Radio, also at WrestlingObserver.com. And he's going to be working a more limited schedule. And there's a lot of details in the new issue, but I couldn't help but note that, like, the number of pay-per-view shows that he's going to be doing this year, you know, you had written, what, we're talking maybe 6 or something of that nature?
6 to 8, yeah. There is a number that they've agreed to, but I don't know what the exact number is, but I think 6 to 8 is somewhere in that range. I brought up 7, and they said close. I guess that's why I say 6 to 8.
So he's working 6 to 8 pay-per-view shows. You mentioned that he would do some SmackDown shows to build up the pay-per-view shows.
Yes,
and
he'll do TV. He'll do TVs in conjunction with the pay-per-views, like what Lesnar and Goldberg do. Yeah,
and occasionally he'll show up on Raw.
Probably.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's got dates. They'll start being announced soon, I presume. He was pulled from all advertising for everything except for Money in the Bank and SummerSlam, but he will be advertised probably relatively soon for the dates that he will be appearing on the shows. But he's going to be doing a lot of matches. I think on TV, I'm going to guess I don't know that he's going to be a complete Lesnar and Goldberg where you never do a match on TV, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's close to that. And of late, if you notice on SmackDown, he rarely was doing matches on television.
So I got no problem with the guy that has earned the right to essentially have a schedule like this. Good for him. Okay.
Yep, good for him.
But I mean, the obvious question is,
why is he the world champion?
Why? Not just that, but
the same reason why Lesnar was.
But Lesnar
and Goldberg too.
They had a title, and there was another title on the other show. To me, the whole point of unifying a title is that you have a champion that can then appear on both shows and prop up both shows. But as dual champion, he's largely still a SmackDown wrestler. He's making rare appearances on Raw. He's not going to be doing any house shows. He's not even going to be doing all of the pay-per-views. And, people would talk about how Lesnar hijacked the title. Well, that's all fine and good if you have another champion, but they don't. So we've unified the titles to put it on a guy who's barely going to be there and not going to even be on the other show.
It would make sense to have the championship on somebody else, especially since Reigns doesn't really need it, at least until WrestleMania. I think that, to put the title on somebody else through, October, November, and then if the idea is if you're going to do Rock and Roman Reigns and you want that to be a championship match, get the title back on Roman Reigns, towards the end of the year, maybe at the Rumble or whatever, that makes perfect sense. To have it on him now when you have all these pay-per-views, I don't know. I don't know that it needs to be on him, but that's the decision they made.
And then, of course, we got SmackDown tonight, and they are teasing the unification of the tag team titles, which you also reported they have plans to deliver the match, but not the stip.
Well, they may deliver the stip,
What?
but that was the idea a week ago, was that they weren't planning on unifying the titles, but they are going to do the unification match. I'm going to guess in Chicago on the pay-per-view. Come the week of the show or whatever, they may end up unifying the tag titles. I don't know that they won't, but the idea that was discussed was it's probably a good idea to have two sets of champions for the two different shows. So
they made that decision about the tag team champions, but not the actual world champion.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can see the argument of having one world champion. I can almost see the argument of one tag champion, but I would disagree with it at this stage, just because the tag title doesn't mean that much, and it's better to have two of them, one for each brand. So there's all the tag teams it puts more tag teams in a position to be relevant. I can, the one world title is with the idea that you've got, like in the king, the real king, and you go after the real king. Now, of course, I would want the world title on someone that's there all the time, but again, it's you can certainly make the argument in the NWA era that the world champion was made special because you only saw him once every month or two, rather than every week, and he might be in your city 6 times a year, or something like that, back in the days when they did monthly shows, or in some cities weekly shows. So there is an argument and a precedent that keeping it, the championship matches sparing in your local market meant that it meant more and it gave it more prestige. But none of that's, I don't think any of that's really relevant to today.
So the other big story is what's going on with Kota Ibushi. And, I was thinking about this story the other day, and I kind of thought, if you don't like it, I guess you could just quit. But, clearly he doesn't want to quit. He wants to get fired. That's what's going on here. He clearly wants to get fired.
He's trying to get out of his contract so he can wrestle somewhere else. He doesn't want to give up wrestling, but he's very unhappy with New Japan. And, that's the basic situation.
So he's published text messages. He's burned a bridge here, it appears.
He's attempting to burn a bridge.
Yes, and he had signed what they had described as a lifetime contract
Well, it wasn't really.
Which I don't even know what that even means.
It wasn't lifetime.
Signed to a 100-year contract, a 20-year contract?
No, I think he's under contract until the end of this year, actually. So he actually could have sat it out, and maybe that'll be what happens. And again, he's got to get his shoulder back. I mean, he doesn't want to wrestle until his shoulder is close to ready, and it's, his shoulder is very weak. So, there's, and I think they probably want him to wrestle, or would hope for him to wrestle. They wanted him back for the New Japan Cup.
So why was it announced that he'd signed a lifetime contract if it was actually 3 years?
I don't know.
Or what do we know about the status of this contract?
It's pro wrestling. There's a lot of things said about contracts that may not be 100% accurate, especially more now than ever before, I think.
I mean, they could at least just say a long-term contract. They specifically said lifetime.
They did say
lifetime.
They did say lifetime.
What did you do that for?
I don't know. There's no. I mean, who has even the Undertaker? I don't think has a lifetime contract. Although I think it's like a 15-year contract, which is a lot of his life left. Yeah, a good percentage of it probably.
So now, obviously, the question. I mean, I've always been under the impression that Kota Ibushi's family, like, they have a lot of money. And so this is not like his he'd be okay if he didn't wrestle again.
He'd be okay.
But I guess the question is, where do you want to wrestle at? If you don't want to move to the U.S., I mean, he's going to do indies around Japan, DDT. What's he going to do?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know if he knows what he's going to do. I think he's just frustrated. I think it's a combination of whatever it is. I think he feels disrespected by New Japan, and also, you got to remember that these guys, that the Kota Ibushi level, there's when you get to be that good, there's something you have a certain drive and thing that most people can't really fully understand, and that makes you that good. And so he's got that. And then when you're injured and can't perform, it does a double whammy on you. And so he's in that state where, it's like, and even worse for him, it's not just the wrestling, but you don't look like Kota Ibushi unless you've got like this training whammy too. So he's got the wrestling whammy and the training whammy, and he can't do either. So he's probably depressed as all hell. And I think that's part of what's going down here, is that he's probably severely unhappy because he can't lift weights and train like he wants to. He can't wrestle, which is his outlet. And he feels disrespected by the company that, he worked with when he got hurt, and maybe, blames their pressure for him coming back early from the pneumonia, and maybe that had a part in him getting hurt, in the G1 when he wasn't nearly 100%, and he did that grueling G1 tournament.
Well, what I do like about this, whatever he's doing, is that we do actually finally have somebody taking a stand against this culture in Japan of, hey, if you're hurt, you just work. Unless you're, like, badly hurt. And then, because we'd always heard that. Like, if someone missed a show, something must be really bad.
Really bad,
that they missed a show. And it's actually ridiculous. It's like, if you're hurt, you shouldn't be working a show. And it's a culture that probably would be much better off if we had more people like Ibushi who's like, I'm not coming back if my shoulder's destroyed. Yeah,
look, I saw people who were literally on crutches backstage after surgery go in the ring and attempt to wrestle, and wrestle very poorly because of it, because of the mentality that you don't miss advertised dates there. Yeah, I mean, that's in another era, but not that, much of another era. So, yeah, I mean, I've seen some stuff in Japan that is, I've seen it in the United States too, but it probably is more severe in Japan than the United States as far as the mentality that you don't miss matches due to injuries unless you're, like, completely incapacitated. Yeah.
I mean, quite frankly, the rule that they have where if you're advertised for a title match and you can't make the title match, you're stripped of the title. It seems kind of a little bit severe, but hey, if you advertise a match and the person can't be there, I mean, that's fine.
But that's the same in UFC too.
Sure, but I mean that's all fine and good. But if you're at a Ishii or whatever, you've got no title and you're hurt, I mean, you should be able to not wrestle until you're not hurt.
I mean,
it's common sense.
I mean, at the end of the day, you do have the ability to do so. They're always going to, and that's again, like, how many times have you heard in the United States the same thing where somebody has had, like, say, knee surgery, and they say you need to be out for 8 months, and 4 months later the promotion calls them up, we need you back. I mean, I've heard that my whole life in American pro wrestling
It's
too.
industry wide. Well, listen, we
It's
have to head to
industry-wide.
we have to head to a break. Thanks, Dave. I'll plug the Observer after the break. Everybody, back in a moment. Observer Live.
Hey there, everyone. It's Denise Salcedo, and I am back with part 2 of my AEW Double or Nothing trivia. Let's play. Question number 1. True or false? Cody Rhodes has had a singles match on every edition of AEW Double or Nothing from 2019 through 2021. The answer is true. In 2019, he wrestled Dustin Rhodes. In 2020, he wrestled Lance Archer. And in 2021, he wrestled Anthony Ogogo. Question number 2. Who was not in the AEW Double or Nothing 2021 Casino Battle Royale? A. Wardlow. B. Dustin Rhodes. C. Penta El Cero Miedo. D. All of the above. The correct answer is Wardlow. He was not in it because...
Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. One thing after another. Back here in the show. And there we go. Mike Sempervive not joining us here today. So it's just me and you. And hey, look, I figured out this autofocus thing again. Sorry it was blurry for a while here, but every now and then this camera's got a life of its own. So anyway, we fixed it, and now I'm bright and clear. Hey, if you want to join the show, here's how we do it. 425-780-7566 is the phone number to text. 425-780-7566. If you want to call, yes, the phone lines are open. And the phone number, 844-913-2727. 844-913-2727. I was watching Sonic the Hedgehog with my daughter the other day, and there's a scene where, like, I've never actually watched the first movie. I'm just in the room when it's on. But there's something that happens with, like, a power surge, and all the power goes out in the city or whatever. And then they cut to a scene in the police department or whatever, and the phones are ringing. And And Paisley goes, "What's that noise?" I said, "What are you talking about?" She was talking about the phone ringing because she doesn't know what a phone is. So for those of you that know what a phone is, if you have a phone and you want to call, that 844-913-2727 number is what us old folks know as a toll-free number. You don't pay a toll to call that number if you're on a landline. I realize all this going over a lot of your heads. But if you have a landline, that phone number is toll-free. You don't have to pay the toll. For the other 80% of you listening that are young, just call the number. Wait on hold, and then tell me what's on your mind. And I'll get to the text messages as well. Capital Collision is tomorrow for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yes, it will be available on Fight TV. Yes, the last show, Windy City Riot, was a disaster. Yes, New Japan has promised significant improvements. Guys, remember back in the day before there was like a WWE network and Ring of Honor had that streaming service and some other companies always try to stream, and every single time it was like an absolute disaster, and there'd be buffering or you couldn't get in or the quality was horrible or it would die, and every time they were like, next time we're going to get it, next time. Well, luckily it's now 2022, and man, I'm streaming. Beautiful HD. It's working right now. So they promise significant improvements for this coming Saturday's pay-per-view. Hiroshi Tanahashi defends the IWGP United States title against Jon Moxley, Will Ospreay, and Juice Robinson in a four-way. That's for the U.S. title. Okada and Trent Beretta face Jay White and Hikuleo. Tomohiro Ishii faces Eddie Kingston in a Mean Guy match. Brody King and Minoru Suzuki in another Mean Guy match. We have Jeff Cobb, Aaron Hanare, Mark Davis, and Kyle Fletcher against Jonah, Mikey Nichols, Shane Haste, and Bad Dude Tito. Great Khan versus Chase Owens. Fred Rosser, David Finlay, Tangaloa, Rocky Romero, and Yuya Uemura against our own Filthy Tom Lawler, J.R. Kratos, Royce Isaacs, Jarrell Nelson, and Danny Limelight. Ren Narita versus Carl Fredericks, and Kevin Knight versus the DKC. If you're a subscriber to WrestlingObserver.com, video.f4wonline.com, don't miss out. You on Monday can enjoy the next episode of Filthy 4 Daily, where we find out if my cocky friend Tom made it through the weekend. Because this Sunday is his birthday. And I believe this Sunday is the day that he once again puts his New Japan Strong Openweight title on the line against Fred Rosser. Fred Rosser, who has lost twice to Filthy Tom Lawler. Twice. Both times, by the way, voted Match of the Year for New Japan Strong. And they're going to do it one more time on Tom's birthday. Does he have what it takes to do this one more time? We're going to have a special show Monday, one way or the other. Either a celebration or a memorial to Tom's reign as Strong Openweight champion. Got a lot of people on the line, so let's do this. Portsmouth, you're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, what's up? This is Brandon here in Portsmouth.
Yes.
Well, first of all, I can't wait for Monday. That's going to be a great podcast there with Tom. Now, I understand if they do Rock versus Roman, if they do that match, that the title being on the line, that would be the marquee match. But I feel like if the title's on the line, I don't believe there's any chance The Rock wins that match. But if the title isn't on the line because maybe Roman has lost the title for whatever reason, and it's Rock versus Roman for, like, who's really the head of the table, Roman may end up still winning, but I still be like, well, there might be a chance and maybe The Rock wins that match. So, I don't know. It kind of seems like it would make better sense to not have the title on the line at Mania, coming from that perspective.
Well, I want to thank you very much for the call. I mean, from my perspective, I mean, there ain't nothing they can do that makes me think that Rock is going to win that match. I mean, I guess maybe if it were like, Roman Reigns is going to retire and it's his last match ever. And in that case, probably wouldn't matter if you put over The Rock. But, I mean, if Roman is not retiring, I just cannot see him losing to The Rock under any circumstance. Rock is there to put over Roman Reigns. And it is funny because this Roman Reigns push and, beating Brock, unifying the titles, never getting beaten. I mean, the idea here really is supposed to be to build up Roman Reigns as the absolute unbeatable greatest champion of all time, which in theory also makes the title that he holds the most prestigious, valuable title anywhere in all of pro wrestling. But it does not feel that way to me. I mean, it probably does to the WWE audience and everything like that, because I'm sure they think somebody deserves that belt. But, I don't think that if you do The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania in Los Angeles, you don't need that title on the line. I think you don't need it. Like, try to create a new superstar with that title in another match. Roman's already top of the food chain. So, I don't know. I don't think you need the title for that match one way or the other. And I don't think title or no title. I think that Rock's winning one way or the other. But, trying to predict the winner of a WWE match is a exercise in folly. Austin, Texas, you're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, Brian. Shout out to the Twitch homies. Frankie Kazarian's going to be at the Impact tapings this weekend, and I'm wondering if this is just a one-off to reciprocate for Deonna Purrazzo and W. Morrissey being on Dynamite, or if this is like the beginning of a main, talent exchange things that are going to be doing again, long term.
Well, I want to thank you very much for the call. I don't know. I never asked. My guess would be probably more similar to what you said first, the one-time exchange, because it doesn't appear that we're in that. A while ago, it was like people were going back and forth, storylines back and forth, but now it just appears their Impact and AEW are on the same page, and if AEW wants to bar someone, they can ask and probably get that person, and then they'll exchange somebody, and Frankie Kazarian can go and do a job for somebody or whatever. But I would presume that's what it is, but I can try to find out. But I haven't seen much of an indication that people are going to be sent over for longer periods of time, but perhaps they will be. All right, let's go to no, Ryan. Ryan, you're banned. No, you're banned. I know you're listening right now. You have been banned from the show. So it's like Kota Ibushi's contract. Like, you've got to take a break. You and your brother are both banned. All right. Let's go to Chatsworth. I think that's correct. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, Brian. What's up?
Not much. What's happening?
I just have one question for you. What one wrestler do you really want to see go through Saray's magic white smoke?
Oh, man. I thought this was going to be a trolling question, but this one's right up my alley. Well, honestly, I mean, who's going to top Bodie Hayward going through and becoming a cheerleader? I mean, actually, I can think of a few wrestlers that I would like to go through her transformation tunnel. Unfortunately, they've both been fired. I would have liked to have seen Harland go through that tunnel and come out in some silly costume and have to do something wacky. That would have been fun. I would have liked to have seen Dexter Lumis go through that tunnel. He might have been better than Bodie Hayward going through that tunnel. If Dexter Lumis had gone through the tunnel and come out the other side dressed as Indy Hartwell, I think that would have been fantastic. But I got some suggestions here. Nah, Tony D'Angelo, I don't think it'd be as funny. Orange Cassidy, nah. Joe Gacy, no. I want to see somebody. You have to have somebody that has like the stoic gimmick, and then they come through and they have to be like completely, totally different. That's what I think is not Omos. No, he already tries to have no, not Aleister Black. Honestly, I think that my two were the best two: Harland and the creep from the Creep Farm, Dexter Loomis. Minoru Suzuki, actually, he would do a great job. He would do a great job coming through that tunnel. It actually would be great if Ezekiel showed up and he went through the tunnel and he became Elias. That would have been fantastic. But that's a pre-tape you can't do because we would have heard about it by now. I think that those are the... So you guys hate NXT 2.0, but you know you're thinking about it. Gunter, I actually would love to see Walter come through the tunnel. He'd be a good one. He'd be a great one. Or, yeah, just like everybody that has a worse gimmick on the main roster, they could go through the tunnel and be their old great gimmick again. Like Sami Zayn, he's all annoying, and he goes through the tunnel and he comes back as a babyface Sami Zayn from like 2016. That'd be great. And, yeah. All right, who else do we have? Oh, nobody else on the line. Let's go to text messages. Actually, first we should mention Dynamite on Wednesday night. It was up 0.8% in viewers. 840,000 viewers. 18 to 49, they did a 0.33. They were fifth on the cable charts. They had, of course, NBA competition, but also the season premiere of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. They also did a 0.33, but had slightly more viewers in the demo. So that would mean that, usually the season premiere is kind of the peak, unless it like really catches on. So I would guess that they probably won't be defeated by the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills going forward, but you never know. And those are the numbers. Back in a moment, Observer Live.
Participating in the Stadium Stampede that year. Question number 3. True or false? Kenny Omega has had a singles match on every AEW Double or Nothing from 2019 through 2021. The answer is false. In 2019, he wrestled Jericho, but the following year, he was part of the Stadium Stampede, and then in 2021, he was in a triple threat against Orange Cassidy and Pac. Question number 4. True or false? Kenny Omega has main evented every AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view between 2019 and 2021. And once again, the answer is false. He took part in the main events for 2019 and 2020, but for 2021, he was not in the Stadium Stampede match, which closed out the show. Question number 5. Name the 2 cities that have hosted an AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view. There are only 2 answers, and those are Jacksonville, Florida, and Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, that's officially a wrap for our AEW Double or Nothing trivia. Thank you guys so much for playing. I hope you guys had a good time. Other than that, enjoy the rest of Wrestling Observer Live.
back here on the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. No Mike Sempervive, but Little Lord Fauntleroy here has been begging me during the break to help co-host. He says he has something very, very important to say. So since it's a short segment, I'm going to let him say his piece. So floor is yours, Fauntleroy. Go for it.
Hey, Ryan in Cumberland. You're fired. Lol, 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 haha, you geek. Get out of here. You absolute geek. You're the geekiest geek that ever geeked.
All right.
I haven't seen a geek like you since the last time I went to an F4W convention.
Hey, you little idiot. God, you give him a, what's the old saying? You give him a inch and he takes a mile? I should have known that was a mistake. But he did mention the F4W convention, and if you are interested in going to our convention, which is in Vegas, all-out weekend, end of the month. Hey, we got some tickets available to a couple of things. I'm not even sure what's left. The combo ticket package with an AEW ticket and a Q&A ticket is gone, so you can't get that one. But I think we still have a couple of Q&A tickets left. General admission only. That's Saturday, if you want to go to our Q&A, Dave and I at the Silver Nugget Casino. They're always fun. You get to stand up and talk into the mic and ask a question, and then, we answer it. That's Saturday, and you can grab that. Ed in San Antonio's got a show. We got a group dinner, Texas Day, Brazil. 5 p.m. sharp. I'll be there. Vinny. I think Dave's going to that one. I'm going for sure. I don't care about everyone else. I'm going to eat some all-you-can-eat steak at the Texas Day Brazil. So if you want to attend any of these with us, f4wvegas.brownpapertickets.com or f4wonline.com/Vegas. I want to thank Mike, as always, callers and listeners over to the studio, all of my top-tier YouTube subscribers, Twitch homies. We'll talk to you guys next time. Have a great weekend. Wrestling Observer Live.